Hey there, YouTubers. We're back with an episode of Country Living. We're gonna start off the garden section with a video here how to do a little bit of cloning for your tomato plants. It's overcast and it's a little rainy out, and as you can see, I have no shortage of tomato plants. My brother actually dropped off 96 cherry tomato plants, so I don't know how well they're gonna do. Some of them might not make it. As you can see here, that one broke the top off. Some of the leaves on the bottom are dying, but they look like they might make it. And the first two rows are yellow pear ones, and then the rest I think are just regular. And you can't really can cherry tomatoes, which is the biggest reason I grow tomatoes, is for canning them for my cooking purposes. So what we're going to do here is we're going to come into my regular tomato plants, which you can see here. I have 7 of them because I had earlier ones that got hit with the frost, and they have a ton of weeds on them right now. And this is the run out of all of them. And I'm doing an experiment with some homemade fertilizer with these 3 and a sunflower I have, just to test it out. And if it works, I'll put a video on that up. So far, the sunflower seems to be doing a little bit better, but one other thing I have is when I'm watering these with the fertilizer, since it just seems to wash out along the ground, doesn't really get to the roots, what I've done is taken soda bottles and drilled holes in the bottom of them and submerged them in the ground about 3/4 of the soda bottle. And I pour the fertilizer mix right into that. That way it soaks directly into the ground near the plant's roots, not runs off the surface where they can't reach it. So what we're going to do here is, get the camera in view, we're going to remove the sucker off of this tomato plant. Now, when I say sucker, what I mean is where you have, as you will see right here, we have the main stalk. It's kind of hard to get this on video here. Here we have the main stalk coming up. We have a branch coming off of it, and then right in the center of that, this is considered a 90-degree angle, right in the center here is a sucker coming up. And as you can see, almost every Y has one. Now, you were supposed to remove them. All they do is drain extra nutrients from your main branches, which are going to grow your tomatoes. So removing them helps your tomatoes continue to grow faster, so they don't have to supplement a whole nother branch. So what we're going to do is we're going to take him off, and we're going to actually clone him into another plant. Now, when removing these, you can pinch them. I'm taking a scalpel I have and I'm just going to cut him right off. Just like that. Sit him down here. As you can see, all I did was cut him right there. Now you can see right here, there's another one coming out of this branch, but he's not very big, so I'm not going to worry with him right now. These tomatoes, I forget how old they are, but about a week ago they didn't have these suckers on them, so they come up pretty quick. As you can see, there's another one. Right in the Y. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Come in here and cut him right off. This one's a little bit smaller. Same thing. I'm going to set him down. And we're going to check these ones here. I need at least, I had 3 containers set out for them, but I don't think any of my other ones are quite big enough yet. This guy here is. He's got one right here. I'm just gonna cut him right off. Take him out. Alright, well that's 3 out of 4. Alright, we're gonna grab our 3 suckers and we'll meet you inside. Alright, we're back here in the growing room. It's the back porch of my house. It's got an open floor. It's just pretty much a enclosed porch, so I use it to start off my pots. As you can see, I got some sunflowers and what's left of my cherry tomatoes that I haven't planted yet. I got some of them. So here we go. Now, when you're cloning, they make a lot of these types of things. This is Miracle-Gro Fast Root. Now, as you can see right here, I got one already in a pot going. I had tried a few of these earlier, and I didn't cut suckers, I cut actual branches off of them. I did 2 with the fast root, And that one I just put in a jar of water and left it sit. And the two with the fast root actually shriveled up, and I pulled them out when I planted that one, and they didn't even have a root on them. So we're going to do it the way I did that last one, and seemed to work pretty good for me, and a lot of people have success. Now when you're doing these, you want to make sure, sorry, move, dog's in here. You want to make sure you get a deep angle. This. That allows for more surface room to absorb water. All you're going to do, put them in a container. That's just fresh water in a bottle that's been cleaned out. Do the same thing to these. Now there's all kinds of root growing materials out there. This Miracle Grow, like I said, I picked this up at Lowe's. It was about $5.94 or $5.49, I forget. Like I said, I put it on two of them. They didn't even sprout a root. They just shriveled up and died. This one, I just sat in a jar of water. I didn't really even have any expectations for him. I was just testing out because a few videos I've seen did that. And next thing I know, there my sunflowers need transplanted. They're starting to get some roots. Next thing I know, he's got about 5 or 6 little roots on him, and I brought him out and planted him in one of my pots. And well, as you can see here, right there's a few roots coming out the bottom. So he's almost ready to be planted. I'll probably end up planting him out here in the next week or two. And now these ones, they'll take maybe a week before you'll see any roots. Don't worry, this is just plain water. It's just straight out of my tap. I have well water, so it's non-chlorinated. And if you have water with chlorine in it, I'd suggest sitting it out, letting it sit out overnight to kill the chlorine, or just buying a bottle of regular water. If anyone else has any reviews about this Miracle Grow, put it on there, let people know. Like I said, I think I wasn't really pleased with it at all. But I know a lot of people don't like using hormones like this because, especially on tomato plants, because it's not natural. It's a chemical, and a lot of people don't want to use it on the tomato plants, but I was just testing it out to see how it works. So, that being said, we're going to do these ones with the root method, where you just put them in a container and let them sit. So we're going to let these guys sit back here for about a week, and then I'll bring the video back when their stems start to pop out some roots here, and then I'll show you how to put them in the little pots. Hello YouTubers, we're back here now. It's been about a week and a half since I cut the suckers in the earlier video and showed you, and I actually had to go back out and trim a couple more off. Now, one thing I've noticed is a few of them won't make it occasionally, but something I was having issues with was the putting them in plastic bottles for some reason. A couple of them seem to shrivel up at the bottom and die. I'm not sure why. I don't know if it was something in the plastic. I'm not really certain on that, but those, like I said, most of those didn't make it. I did have one in a water bottle that seemed to sprout roots just recently, but it's been about a week and a half. This one, however, I put in a glass vase, and he's been in there about 5 days, and as you can see, he's got substantial root growth on him. Now yesterday that was only about 1/8 of an inch. Today it's almost a 1/2 inch, so he's more than doubled overnight. I don't know why, but for some reason they seem to do better in glass. Maybe it's some kind of chemical in the bottle that stops them from growing faster or prohibits them from growing. I'm not 100% certain. But so if you're going to do this, I'll probably put an annotation in the previous part of the video telling you to make sure you put them in glass. They seem to work better. Oh, there my hydroponics is kicking on. So what we're going to do is we're going to transplant this one into a Jiffy pot. Now, Jiffy pots, I mentioned before, they're just biodegradable. The roots will actually grow right through these pots, and makes it easier. You don't have to empty the plant out and then put it into the garden. You can plant the pot right in. So basically what we're going to do is, this is just, I'm going to put some mix in here. This is basically just a little bit of potting mix and some compost that I had bought. I put about half the cup in. Make a little divot in there to put the plant itself into. I try and get that plant pretty close to the bottom. some of this broke up here so I can... There's actually chunks of a Jiffy pod in there because I tore one apart and put it... One sunflower didn't make it. I had a small pod of a small Jiffy pod on it, the starter one. The wind killed it, and I dug that back up, and it's in there. So it actually does. They do biodegrade down and break apart really nice and easy. And that's about that. That's cloning and transplanting. Now you can water that, put it on a tray because it will drip out the bottom. It does have that small hole there. You can put it on a tray. You can plant it directly in the garden if you want to. I like to wait a little bit until the roots actually start to come out a little. So what I'm going to do is I got one of these Jiffy starter trays where the water sits in these little reservoirs. I'm going to sit it in like that. And today I'm going to actually water the top of it. Put a little bit of water in here. Not a lot. Just a little bit, let it soak down in. I might have to put some more mix in there. And I'm actually going to water just the pot, the actual tray itself now. That little reservoir on the bottom with these Jiffy pots will pull that water up through into the bottom of the plant, right to the roots. Within the next 3 to 4 days, I'll probably start seeing some roots coming out the bottom, and he'll be ready to put in the garden. I dig a nice little hole, put some planting mix or compost in around him, so it gives him something a little bit easier to grow into than the hard dirt, and he'll be good to go. He'll be good to be planted. So that's an easy way to trim your suckers off your plants and double your amount of tomato plants. Or you can even start one earlier in the year and just completely take the branches off instead of the suckers and split one plant into multiple, and that way you'll have them to start the season off with instead of buying a bunch of plants to begin with. As you can see, this sucker here is actually already growing a small sucker in between on both of these branches. So that'll grow up to be a pretty decent tomato plant for later in the year here. So that's how you successfully clone and transplant without using any root hormones, the organic way. No root hormones, just glass jars and water. And it takes about a week. So thanks, like, subscribe, any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know.